Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending today's press conference announcing the release of the Healthy Waters Coalition's policy recommendations for the Farm Bill. I'm Ken Kirk, Executive Director of the National Association of Clean Water Agencies, and I will be hosting this press conference this afternoon. The Healthy Waters Coalition is a diverse set of stakeholders, some of whom you'll hear from today, who have come together on behalf of one issue: the need to make sure the Farm Bill continues to make progress on stemming the water quality impacts from our agricultural lands caused by nutrient runoff. Before we get started, I wanted to read a message from Senator Debbie Stabenow, Chairwoman of the Senate Agriculture Committee, who couldn't be with us today, but wanted to send a message about the importance of this issue for her. And I quote, "Conservation programs play a critical role in the health of our nation's waters and must be strengthened to ensure both a safe drinking supply as well as clean water for our farmers and producers to continue growing safe and healthy food, fuel, feed, and fiber. I look forward to working with all of you here to make sure we have a strong Farm Bill with a conservation title that ensures adequate protections and the tools to keep our promise to Americans everywhere, a promise of pristine waters and natural resources and a robust, job-creating agriculture sector." We appreciate Senator Stabenow's comments. Coalition partners are joining arm in arm today to urge Congress to make sure that this next Farm Bill builds on its commitment to conservation and water quality goals. We know that excessive nutrients in our waterways are leading to some very serious human health and ecosystem consequences for our country. We know that elevated nitrates in our drinking water supplies can lead to cancer and other human health problems, and we know that dead zones in critical estuaries, such as the Gulf of Mexico and Chesapeake Bay, continue to grow. As a representative of the municipal wastewater sector, which is one of the sources of these nutrients, I know that we must also do our part to address this challenge. But our nation can't achieve our water quality goals unless our working lands contribute to the solution. Farmers are making good progress on meeting this challenge. According to a recent USDA report, farmers in the upper Mississippi River watershed have been able to reduce in-stream phosphorus loads by 40% and nitrogen loads by 21% between 2003 and 2006. But according to the same USDA report, about 62% of all cropped acres in this upper Mississippi River region can do more to reduce runoff from nutrients. And as the white paper that NACWA is releasing today makes clear, the cost to remove a pound of nitrogen or phosphorus from farm runoff and drainage is typically 4 to 5, sometimes 10 to 20 times less than the cost to remove the same amount from wastewater or stormwater. We believe Congress has an opportunity in this next Farm Bill to strengthen our agricultural programs, to continue to make progress on the issue of water quality. The policy recommendations we are releasing today are designed to take the first step toward accomplishing this goal. Briefly, these recommendations would target conservation dollars to areas that are impacted by excessive nutrient runoff and tie these investments to performance standards. Leverage our agricultural safety net programs to ensure progress on this issue, and establish stronger performance and reporting measures to make sure we're using our conservation investments effectively. Each of the participants today will provide their own unique perspective on this challenge. You will hear from representatives from the agricultural community, municipal utility leaders, state regulators, and conservation groups who are supporting this effort and working toward strong policies in the Farm Bill to address this issue. Thank you for all attending today's event, and let's get started. The first group of speakers you'll hear from are representatives from the agricultural community. Ron Kreider is a farmer in Pennsylvania whose farm is located in the Chesapeake Bay watershed and who has made significant commitment to reducing his nutrient footprint in that watershed. We're especially pleased to have Ed Schaefer with us today. Ed is a former secretary of the USDA under the Bush administration and former governor of the state of North Dakota. Ed is now working with Kreider Farms as executive vice chairman of Bion Corporation to use cutting-edge technology to address the nutrient issue. And we also have Ferd Hefner, policy director of the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition, who has been working on sustainable agriculture issues for over 3 decades. So will the three of you come up and talk to us?
Good morning. I'm not sure how I'm so lucky to be the first, but Pat says, you know, it's the farm bill, and I'm a farmer, so, but, you know, farmers are usually way on behind. You got to drag them along. But anyway, good afternoon. I appreciate the invitation to be here today and talk about managing the precious resource of high-quality, clean, and productive water. My name's Ron Kreider, and I'm the third-generation owner and president of a 2,500-acre family farm operation in Lancaster County. We were founded in 1935, and we supply fresh quality eggs, premium ice cream, and milk throughout the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic region of the United States. Our farm is located on the scenic rolling hills of southeast Pennsylvania and lies in the Susquehanna watershed in some of the most productive non-irrigated farmland in the country. Our mission is to achieve excellence in delivering low-cost, high-quality products and to be good neighbors and stewards of the land and to operate clean and efficient state-of-the-art facilities. We are also proud to have been selected as the National Family Farm Environmental Excellence Award for our creative management and animal and bird waste on our combination dairy and egg farm, as well as numerous other awards and citations for our operations. Following in my grandparents' and parents' footsteps and now having the pleasure of seeing my son working on our farm, I know how important it is to manage the land and the water so it will remain productive and environmentally sound in our community. We must simply maintain the water quality, soil capacity, and surrounding infrastructure so future generations will be able to continue being a part of the economic landscape in our community. I'm aware that our operations could add to the enormity of the challenge of the Susquehanna and Chesapeake Bay watershed, but I feel strongly that we must do our part to preserve and protect the quality of the water that is so important to our community. Also, to maintain and sustain an economically viable farm operation, we have to seek out ways that are efficient and affordable. That is why we are working with Bion Environmental Technologies to remove nutrients at our livestock and poultry operations before they ever enter the watershed. Bion invested $7.8 million on our farm to set up an operation to remove nitrogen and phosphorus from the manure that is generated on our sites. The state of Pennsylvania permitted the treatment plant on site, and third-party laboratories verify that nutrients generated are actually being removed from the Chesapeake watershed. And we are able to reuse the nitrogen on our feed crops that grow in the fields instead of purchasing commercial fertilizer, which reduces, again, the nutrient load resulting from our operations. Kreider Farms and Bion are working together and proving that affordable, locally focused nutrient management can help improve the water quality in our communities. This is something that all of us need to commit to so we can preserve our land and natural resources that will be so critically important to the sustainability of our future. It was a pleasure for me to be here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. Good afternoon. It's great for me to be here with you as well. And I want to thank NACWA for the invitation to join the Healthy Waters Coalition conference here today to talk about the water quality issues that are facing our nation. As was mentioned, my name is Ed Schaefer. I'm a former two-term governor of North Dakota, former U.S. Secretary of Agriculture. Seems like everybody just calls me former these days. But In working in those positions, I really gained firsthand knowledge of the enormity of the challenge. The challenge of keeping our streams and our lakes and our tributaries and aquifers clean and well-balanced and capable of delivering the life-generating qualities that we come to expect. Our people, our fisheries, and our agriculture production depend on a good, clean, abundant, safe water supply. I'm also aware that instituting current government policies using common methods of treating our water comes at a huge cost to local government entities. And as a result, taxpayers and ratepayers are starting to be stretched thin. This is especially the case in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Now, I know of the costly efforts in the watershed because of my responsibilities as the Secretary of Agriculture to deliver water cleanup programs in the 2008 Farm Bill. And this is why I was excited about working alongside Ron Kreider with Bion Environmental Technologies to help remove nutrients before they ever even enter the watershed. As you know, an overabundance of nutrients entering our waterways is causing problems with hypoxia, which results in diminished biota, plant, and aquatic life. And currently, the most proven method of removing nutrients falls to our municipal water treatment facilities. Their water input and output can accurately be measured, and nutrients being removed can be accounted for. One of the big contributing factors of nutrients in our water supplies is certainly agriculture activity. And within that sector, the animal and bird populations are large contributing factors. Now, I joined forces with Bion a couple of years ago because I liked the patented biological process of removing nutrients from animal manure. And because I firmly believe that agriculture and agriculture operators are good stewards of the land and want to grasp onto environmental responsibilities, this allowed an opportunity for affordable management plans with equipment and processes that actually get the job done. You heard about how this dairy farmer invested in the technology, and because he helps, like it does better for the environment, and that's part of his responsibility in his farming operations. The Bion system allows for nutrients to be removed right where they're being generated. So the measurements of nitrogen, for instance, are easily identifiable. They're removable not by hopeful computer models, but by actual verification of nutrients being removed by third-party laboratories, certifying to authorities that these nutrients are being removed. And think about how important removing nutrients from the source is to the community. Nitrogen and phosphorus can be removed before they take that long travel through the creeks and the streams and the aquifers on the way to municipal water treatment facilities. Not only can the long-term government requirements of nutrient removal from the Chesapeake Bay be met, but the local water supply systems are benefited so the community can enjoy clean water systems well before the wastewater and stormwater treatment facilities get involved. If we really want to improve our water quality, we need to put together nutrient trading systems that will allow the municipalities to lower their costs and the producers to invest in the needed equipment and processes. A market-driven, voluntary trading system will allow a livestock operator to raise the capital to invest in new technology that can get the job done. Bion is currently engaged in trying to generate a request for proposal program with the state of Pennsylvania that can be a model for other states. We're also working with USDA and EPA in an effort to generate national policy. And with this program, facilities that need to reduce nutrients because of government mandates can issue an RFP and seek the lowest cost and most effective method of making those reductions. I'm convinced that by using new technologies like Bion and working with new nutrient trading policies, that we can reduce nitrogen flowing into the watershed. Also, we can provide lower cost to ratepayers and taxpayers as they commit to cleaning up the water that is so necessary for our people, for our plants, and our aquatic life. A positive impact on water environment in our future is reachable with the new technologies of today if we design public policies that allow them to flourish. And I want to thank again the Clean Water Coalition and NACWA for their efforts to move this conversation into the public domain so that all of us working together can generate public policy for the needed improvements for our water environment.
Well, it's a real honor for me to be here with the Secretary and with a farmer whose products I've had many times, as my parents and my brother both live in Lancaster County. So thank you for producing that wonderful stuff. Ferd Hefner with the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition. We're an alliance of over 90 grassroots farmer-based organizations from coast to coast that since 1988 have been working on federal policy reform to try to move agriculture in a more sustainable direction. It's great to hear the activity going on in Pennsylvania, and we have farmers right now this week in town on our annual spring lobby days and working on Farm Bill in particular, and I left them. Hopefully they're not getting lost on Capitol Hill. I'll go rejoin them later this afternoon. I do want to just sort of bring this discussion into the Farm Bill and just make a couple of brief points. Obviously, this is a Farm Bill year, a difficult Farm Bill year in many respects, but nonetheless it is one, and we want a Farm Bill now, as in this year. It's going to be a difficult climb, but a really important one. An extension of the current Farm Bill is not a viable option in our opinion, and nor is it an easy option. We might as well do the real deal. That being said, we also want a robust and comprehensive Farm Bill, not a quick rush job that leaves out a lot of the important activities, including but not limited to the conservation title, which is near and dear to our heart. It's very, with respect to the conservation title, it's a very high stakes activity right now. You know, I think very luckily the last three Farm Bills have built up quite a bit of support and funding for working lands conservation. From next to nothing prior to that to now it being, together, the working lands programs being the biggest thing in the Farm Bill budget and in the conservation arena, and I think that's really important. And it was forward-looking, because now we really need that more than ever with the production pressures that we're under currently. We need every single one of those dollars that were hard-fought and hard-gained, and we need to make sure every one of those dollars is working to its most effective use. And I think that's where the Healthy Waters Coalition initiative comes in. To make sure that in those areas, and there are many, where nutrients is perhaps the priority resource concern, that we're really using all the tools that we have in the Farm Bill toolbox to address that question and really focus some dollars there in hopefully effective ways. So that is extremely important. We're a signatory of the Healthy Waters Initiative document that went to Congress earlier. And also have spent some time trying to turn that those words into an actual legislative proposal that is well on its way to making its way to Congress, and we hope ultimately being included in the Farm Bill. Another thing that we really need, besides maintaining dollars and targeting those dollars in the conservation title, is to make sure that over the long haul we're really achieving the outcomes, the environmental outcomes that we want out of those Farm Bill dollars. And so it's really important to us that there be a much more explicit monitoring and evaluation effort that's geared towards figuring out what we are getting for the investment. Are we spending the money correctly? And what are the outcomes? So that's also part of the Healthy Waters proposal, legislative proposal, is to move forward in that respect. You know, in the face of 95 million acres to be planted to corn this year, I just pick on that statistic which is the most since World War II, to just drive home the point that the pressure is enormous, and ultimately, you know, if we're going to solve water quality problems, we're going to have to reinvent the farming system. That's a much bigger task, perhaps, than the conservation programs can take on by themselves, but it is nonetheless the task at hand. So it's very important as we move forward on Title II programs that we keep one eye focused on how do we develop the farming systems of the future that don't pollute, that don't use as much petroleum, and that address climate change and obviously the water quality issue that we're here to talk about today. So that's really important. My organization is really dedicated, particularly of making sure that our conservation programs are supporting farmers doing alternative farming systems that really get the job done. And so I pull that one out in particular to highlight, since that's our particular interest. And then last but not least, I think as we look at the Farm Bill and the dollars and how they're spent, you know, even counting whatever gets reduced in the upcoming Farm Bill, let's assume it's similar to what was produced last year for the Super Committee but didn't ultimately happen. You take those dollars out of the cut, we're still going to spend at least $150 billion on commodity and crop insurance subsidies over the next decade. And for those who have been around farm bills, you know that the official Congressional Budget Office score on these things is almost always lowballed. You know, come back 10 years from now, and it's almost always we've spent more than what we predicted. But conservative estimate, $150 billion over the next 10 years. And one thing that we really want to see is that there are basic conservation requirements that all farmers who want to partake in that subsidy system need to do just as a matter of course. It's something that the vast majority of farmers support. Nobody wants to see neighbors getting away with bad practices, cutting costs, cutting corners, and polluting rivers and streams. So we think it's high time that we renew that support for what Congress calls conservation compliance, or what the law calls conservation compliance, but is really the basic social contract with the American people that in return for various production supports, that there's also an expectation that you're going to take care of the land. And so that is perhaps the major fight that's coming down the road this spring as we move forward on the Farm Bill, and it's one that the Sustainable Agriculture Coalition and the farmers who are on the Hill today and tomorrow and the next day for us are going to be talking about loud and clear. So thanks for having me here.
Thank you so much. Our second group of speakers represents the municipal water and wastewater utility sector, whose ratepayers are paying for treatment to remove nitrates from source water and nutrients from wastewater, often at great expense. Diane Vandehei is Executive Director of the Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies and represents large drinking water utilities across the country. Kevin Schaefer is General Manager for the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District in Wisconsin and Chair of NACWA's Farm Bill Work Group. Steve Hirschner is Utilities Environmental Manager for the City of Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Good afternoon. My name is Diane Vandehei. I'm Executive Director of the Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies, or AMWA. The organization is made up of the largest municipal water systems in the U.S. One of their, all of our drinking water members share a strong interest in protecting drinking water sources from excessive agricultural runoff, particularly nutrient pollution. I'd like to speak today about the experience of our member in Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, because as a drinking water system located in the middle of the Farm Belt, they exemplify the challenges water utilities face in removing excess nutrient pollution from their water before it reaches the tap. Des Moines Water Works provides drinking water to approximately 500,000 citizens in the middle of the heartland, in the middle of Iowa. Approximately 85 to 90% of Des Moines' watershed are in highly drained row crop and livestock production, meaning that everything done on the land impacts the quality and quantity of the drinking water available to the people of Iowa. The consequences of excess nutrient runoff into drinking water sources are well documented. High nitrate and phosphorus levels promote blooms of harmful algae and cyanobacteria, which impart unpleasant tastes and odors to treated drinking water and increase the organic carbon content of drinking water. This organic carbon, in turn, reacts with chlorine during the drinking water disinfection process to produce new compounds that are also regulated contaminants and may have negative health effects on human beings. Algae and cyanobacteria can also penetrate sand filters during the treatment process. This increases water turbidity, which is also regulated by the US EPA. Turbidity is a contaminant. In the early 1990s, high nitrate concentrations in Des Moines source waters led to the utility spending $3.7 million constructing a nitrate removal facility. This facility, capable of treating 10 million gallons of water per day, helped bring Des Moines back in line with EPA's drinking water standards for nitrates, but at a cost to utility ratepayers who are not responsible for the initial nutrient pollution. During an average year, the facility's operating labor costs approach $135,000. If we do not take action to keep nutrients out of our source waters, more and more utilities will face similar costs. Given these circumstances, AMWA fully supports the policy recommendations of the Healthy Water Coalition to protect the nation's water resources from excessive nutrient runoff. We urge Congress to take advantage of the unique opportunity to facilitate a more holistic approach to conservation and water quality protection among all regional stakeholders. Encouraging regional cooperation to protect water quality will not only benefit farmers who are managing their working land with care, but it will also help downstream water utilities who today must remove excessive levels of nitrogen and phosphorus pollution to their ratepayers' expense. While Des Moines Water Works and AMWA's entire drinking water utility membership will do whatever it takes to remove these contaminants from their finished water, the most effective solution is to keep excessive nitrate levels out of the source waters in the first place. In closing, we urge Congress to maintain a strong conservation title in the 2012 Farm Bill and to work with us to make conservation programs more effective for all watershed stakeholders. Des Moines Water Works is working hard to keep their drinking water clean and safe, but they cannot do it alone. It is critical that Congress not miss this opportunity to strengthen nutrient runoff controls in the 2012 Farm Bill. I just want to say on a personal note, I really enjoyed the previous presentations from the farm community. Sometimes it seems that we don't talk together. So it's good to hear about all the things that are going on in the farm community versus the water community, and I think maybe it would be better if we talked and worked together on the issues facing us. And one last point I want to say, I grew up in the middle of Wisconsin. All of my parents and their relatives were farmers, dairy farmers. I have many friends who still run their family farms, and I know they care about the land. If you don't farm, you hunt. So you got to care about the land and how you got to be a good steward of the land, and they try very hard at personal expense to do that. So I have an affinity for what you're saying, in addition to the water community that I also represent. Thank you. Say it again.
Good afternoon. Again, my name's Kevin Schaefer, Executive Director, Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District. The first time I've ever been on a presentation where there's been two Schaefers, so this will be the first. I want to thank the coalition for having me here today, and I think it's important that as we start talking about the future, we think about where we've been in the past. And this year marks the 40th anniversary of the Clean Water Act. And 40 years ago, we realized that we needed to do something to clean water in this country. So one of the best pieces of environmental legislation was passed, and today we celebrate 40 years of that. When that law was passed, we really hit it hard on the municipal level. We started treating our wastewater more effectively. We started treating our drinking water more effectively. So we really made huge improvements. And I think it's important today to realize that what we look at as baseline conditions is really much better off than it was 40 years ago. But as we move forward, we have to look at the entire picture. We need to have to look at the entire watershed. And a lot of times when we talk in the wastewater world or the water world or farmland, we don't talk about the water or the watershed. We think about our own issues. And I believe that in the world of NACWA and the other organizations that I think I represent here today, we understand that this is all about partnerships. To get anything done on a watershed basis, you have to have partners. So we started doing this in Milwaukee in around 2000. And if anyone reads the newspapers, you'll know in Milwaukee it's a very volatile issue, water quality. So we realized that before we could really start talking about partnerships, we needed to build a base to talk from, and that was the science. We started building information systems where we could talk to people about where pollution was coming from, whether it's urban or ag, and building that together into a process so that people understood where the information came from and they understood their piece of the pie, their portion of it that they needed to address. So we developed the science, really used that a lot. We're still building on the science today. The other thing we did in 2000, 2001 was we started a project called Green Seams, where we're purchasing land along the waterways. So we have a wastewater utility purchasing land along the waterways to control flooding. It also helps us with the non-point pollution, the nutrient issues that we've heard about today as well. So we've taken a very active role with our partners because we realize we can't just point the finger upstream or downstream. We are the stream. We are the waterways. And we need to work with everyone. So we have today, in fact, last night, we had approved another 550 acres to purchase. So we're up to almost 3,000 acres of land that we've purchased for the Green Seams Park property program to protect and reduce nutrients and reduce flooding. So this can work. I want to thank the coalition for these principles. They really do add a national flavor to what I think a lot of utilities and watersheds are trying to do around the country. And it's something that we really need if we want to take that next step, go 40 years from today and see where we want to be with water quality. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm Steve Hirschner. I'm the Utilities Environmental Manager for the City of Cedar Rapids, Iowa Water Pollution Control Facilities. In Iowa, there are significant differences in how each of us individually contributes to the water quality challenges that face our state and the water resources downstream. For example, 80 to 90% of the nitrogen or phosphorus monitored in the waters of our state is contributed by non-point sources, as documented in studies conducted by the Iowa Department of Natural Resources Geological Surveys Bureau. As an administrator at an Iowa wastewater treatment plant, it might be easy to say that our contribution doesn't matter, because even if we didn't exist at all, there'd still be a nutrients problem in Iowa. That would be short-sighted. All Iowans contribute to our state's water quality problems in one form or another, and all of us have a shared responsibility in contributing towards developing and implementing alternatives that will improve our state and nation's water quality. Unfortunately, the most important means for improving our nation's water quality, the Clean Water Act, did not adequately address the degree to which non-point sources would currently contribute to our water quality challenges. Instead, the Clean Water Act primarily focuses on point sources like the wastewater treatment plant that I represent today. I'm asking Congress to continue to expand the use of tangible alternatives for improving our water quality, like we were discussing today with our Healthy Waters Initiative. It is essential that Farm Bill investments toward different types of agricultural policies and conservation practices continue. Without these Farm Bill investments, it will be difficult for states like Iowa to make meaningful progress in improving our water quality when non-point sources contribute so significantly to our water quality challenges. We are counting on the 112th Congress to ensure that current inequities between the water quality expectations from point sources, like our wastewater treatment facility, and non-point sources, like a farmer growing corn in Iowa, are reduced. They need to make sure that the agricultural community has sufficient resources to address their contributions and to our nation's water quality challenges. I think everyone participating in this Healthy Waters Initiative recognizes that this is necessary, and that the initiative provides the best alternative to achieve meaningful water quality improvements across the United States. As I stated earlier, point and non-point sources in the state of Iowa recognize that all of us contribute to our water quality challenges, and all of us need to be part of contributing towards a solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next set of partners represent state regulators whose job it is to oversee compliance with the Safe Drinking Water Act and the Clean Water Act, and who are also facing the nutrient challenge in most every state. Jim Taft is the Executive Director of the Association of State Drinking Water Administrators, and Alex Dunn is Executive Director of the Association of Clean Water Administrators. Jim, Alex?
Want me to go first? Sure, please. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alex Dunn, as Ken said, Executive Director of the Association of Clean Water Administrators, and it's great to be here with the coalition to talk about such an important issue, nutrients. We represent the 50 state water quality directors. These individuals are charged with administering the Clean Water Act, but also for providing clean water to the citizens of every state in the nation. Those citizens don't discriminate the sources of pollution to their water. What they want is they want to be able to go out and recreate. They want to be able to go out and kayak. They want to know that their source water for drinking water is clean. They have industries that need clean surface water to use for industrial processes. So we have to look, as Kevin Shaver said, at the whole picture, the whole watershed. Where are the sources of pollution? And the EPA is putting a lot of pressure on the states to control nutrients. And the way that they want that to happen is through the development of numeric nutrient water quality standards. Clean Water Act is about numbers. Set a number and meet it. And the publicly owned treatment works in the room know all about trying to meet those numbers. Well, it's pretty manageable when you're talking about a toxic pollutant where you can set a number and you know above that number something bad is going to happen. Something toxic will happen in the watershed. Nutrients are different. We need them, and every watershed is different in terms of how much nitrogen, how much phosphorus it needs to be a healthy watershed. So states are really pushing back and saying, we can do the numbers, we can run the numbers, but will the numbers get us where we need to go in terms of reducing nutrients in the watersheds? And the answer is not alone. So what we're really advancing as state water directors is, again, a watershed approach like the coalition, looking to all sources and looking at alternative accountability measures. There isn't a state in this nation that doesn't have some kind of agriculture. And when I talk with the state water directors, they tell me they want to have partnerships with the folks on the ground, with the state ag agencies and with the farmers. So they've got to work together to really encourage partnerships. We have to think about alternative ways to account for reductions, because the Clean Water Act isn't really designed to count the reductions that could be achieved through agricultural best management practices. We know that dollars to states are going down. Dollars to POTWs are going down. And yet, farm dollars are likely to stay consistent and maybe even go up some. And with dollars comes an obligation to do better and to work with all of us who are in a framework under the Clean Water Act that is relatively inflexible. We know we can make reductions. We know we can work with the farm community. Population is growing, and we've all really have to do our part. I'd like to give one example. The state of Minnesota Water Quality Agency is developing a new agricultural certification program where a farm entity can get a certification from the state of being sort of a smart water quality user and put that on their products. We know that markets will drive behavioral change. People want to know that the products they're buying, even farm products, are made well, responsibly, sustainably. So there are lots of incentives. The coalition is about the right thing, raising the conversation and recognizing that the Clean Water Act is not going to get us to our nutrient goals. We've got to look at all the federal laws that impact nutrients, and the Farm Bill is going to be one of the most important ones of the next couple of years. So we're delighted to be part of the coalition, and I think I'm going to turn it to my state partner, Jim Taft. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Taft with the Association of State Drinking Water Administrators. We represent the men and women who administer their drinking water programs in the 50 states, the 5 territories, and the Navajo Nation. We are engaged in using all of the tools in the Safe Drinking Water Act to ensure safe drinking water for the citizens that consume water from public water systems. It's a multi-barrier source-to-tap approach that has a lot of intervening parts and a lot of aspects to it. Our view, as articulated by my colleague Diane Vandehei, is that it is far cheaper to prevent and protect sources of drinking water than to clean them up. And indeed, there are many contaminants that are very difficult to treat in a conventional water treatment plant and actually pass through. And so it's really an important strategy from our perspective to be taking a preserving, protecting stance with respect to sources of drinking water. That means for us, I think, looking at all contaminant sources, point and non-point, and looking at all the appropriate strategies and all the tools in the toolbox, as others have mentioned. And we think that the topic of today's conversation, nutrient runoff from the agricultural community, is certainly part of the challenge. And so we think that's a very important conversation to have, and we're pleased to be part of the coalition and engaging in that discussion. There are some very encouraging things, I think, that have happened through federal, state, local partnerships in the conservation arena. There are a lot of good case studies. There is much that's been done. There are a lot of success stories that we can point to. So we know it's achievable, we know it's doable, but it is also, I think, clear from the monitoring and surveillance data that the job is not yet done, and indeed, in some cases, the problem is actually getting worse. And so there is really a kind of a clarion call that needs to go out, a call for action to work in partnership together, very much what everybody has talked about, and use all of the tools at our disposal and use them wisely. To use data and information to target where we undertake particular activities to protect sources of drinking water. Many states working with their water utilities are very much challenged by nitrate, high levels of nitrate, algal toxins, co-occurring contaminants that sort of come along with those, microbiological contaminants, and as Diane mentioned, organic material that can be a precursor for disinfection byproducts. All of those are things that are challenging with respect to the nutrient problem. And so it's not simply nitrates, it's really a broader issue. And so we are very interested in seeing how we can sort of best use these tools and looking at the Farm Bill, try to leverage and use most wisely the resources that are available to us. So that's our perspective.
Thank you. Finally, we have a group of NGO leaders and partners whose members work in communities all across the country on behalf of clean water every day. We are pleased they could join us. Matt Bond, President of the Water Environment Federation and a Vice President with the Black & Veatch Consulting Engineering Company. Ben Grumbles, President of the Clean Water America Alliance. Brad Redlin, Director of Agricultural Programs for the Isaac Walton League of America. Scott Faber, Senior Vice President for the Environmental Working Group. And Shauna Erdvardi with American Rivers. Please come up.
Thank you, Ken. As part of the Water Environment Federation, we're pleased to support this effort. We're one of the supporters of the white paper and part of the Healthy Waters Coalition as well. The Water Environment Federation and our 36,000 members understand that clean water is everyone's responsibility. We've long supported the watershed approach, and our members are actively involved in innovative partnerships that include municipal and agricultural operators to protect water quality, improve soil conditions, and recover energy. 40 years after the passage of the Clean Water Act, water quality continues to be impaired from a variety of sources, including agriculture. It's vitally important that we improve the effectiveness of the USDA conservation programs by elevating the importance of water quality and allowing these investments to be targeted to key watersheds and help address the biggest sources of impairment. The American people support funding for water quality because they know that water's worth it. But in order to maintain this public support, we need to ensure that monies are spent as efficiently as possible. Targeting USDA conservation monies to address nutrient pollution, for example, or facilitating trading between point and non-point sources. These all make more sense than spending billions more to control the last ounce of pollution from municipal sources. The facts support this view, and we hope that Congress will keep these facts in mind. Thanks for allowing us to participate in this coalition.
You know, there's a difference between being well-fed and overfed, and if you can't get the right balance, citizens and ecosystems get fed up. And I'm Ben Grumbles, president of Clean Water America Alliance. We're a nonprofit committed to uniting people in policy for water sustainability, bringing together all the different segments, not just of the water community, but as the theme of today shows, connecting with other sectors, with agriculture, with transportation. If you want to get serious about sediment and stormwater pollution problems, you work with the Highway Bill and the Transportation Department. And Clean Water America Alliance, which is drinking water and wastewater and the private sector and agriculture and environmental NGOs, firmly believes that one of the most significant challenges and greatest opportunities for clean water and healthy watersheds is nutrient control, and managing nitrogen and phosphorus properly and connecting with partners and the Farm Bill. So Clean Water America Alliance is delighted to be part of the Healthy Waters Coalition to urge policymakers to use the Farm Bill to reduce water pollution problems, to grow the economy. And if I just say one more thing, the key to environmental success, which I've learned over the years as a state official and as an EPA, U.S. EPA water official, is to really embrace the concept of collaboration. So looking at Farm Bill programs, conservation title programs that are so important to the future of America's natural heritage, such as wetlands and soil conservation, it really is all about water and working with the agricultural community and embracing innovation, water quality trading. There's tremendous potential there. But all of these things happen if there's technology and investment and targeting of resources. We can't manage something if we're not adequately monitoring it. And that's why we believe that the Farm Bill and those who are agricultural stewards need the tools, need to be measuring what the status is of the water quality, and so that those downstream also can measure the status of water quality. The best thing we can do to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Clean Water Act is to pass a strong Farm Bill. Thank you very much.
My name is Brad Redlin. I'm the Director of Agriculture Programs for the Isaac Walton League of America. It's a long-time conservation organization. We're celebrating our 90th year this year and working in natural resource conservation and in particular in agricultural conservation. We're proud to have been around for the first Farm Bills, and we're still here today working on the Farm Bills. And particularly proud and gratified to be participating in the Healthy Waters Coalition. It's been a great learning experience, and I like to feel that we've been contributing something as well to this coalition. It's an important coalition and a well-represented coalition across a broad spectrum, and that's a particular appeal for us and our emphasis on collaborating in the work that we do. Just briefly, I'd note that we certainly stand foursquare for the support of the voluntary conservation programs, the working land programs that exist in the Farm Bill, and the priority that those programs serve natural resources, water quality, but the farm community and the farm producers as well that constitute a large part of our membership. I also would point out that the emphasis in the signatory document that the coalition sent to Congress a few months back, important priority on monitoring and evaluation, because for the programs to be stood up is one thing, but to make sure that they're effective and performing is obviously just as much a part of the importance of those programs as anything else. And I'll be real brief, but I want to concentrate a little bit in terms of the work that my organization has particularly been involved in, and that's been in, was brought up briefly already today, but on conservation compliance in terms of a existing federal farm policy. This is just a provision, a covenant essentially between the taxpayer and producers that say if you're participating in federal farm programs, be they the conservation programs, be they Title I crop subsidies, you will abide by these basic protections for the soil and the basic protection of wetlands and water. Consequences, if you don't abide by that covenant, we will withhold the subsidies that would otherwise be paid to you. We've, as an organization, have particularly focused on this provision of federal policy for this farm bill because it doesn't require us coming to Capitol Hill and asking for additional investment. This is a mechanism that, when triggered, will actually reduce Treasury outputs, frankly. And the other aspect of it is that it's a need that's been identified from our membership from the ground up. They're seeing rapid expansion of converted rangeland into row crops. We've seen rapid conversion of wetlands. The tile manufacturing companies are not able to keep up with the orders for all the tile that needs to be delivered to the Midwest to drain wetlands. And we know these tiles are delivery systems of nutrients to water bodies. We know that those wetlands that are being removed are the kidneys of nature that are being removed and not serving their purpose anymore. And the final point to be made to bring this all together is that in today's environment, 2012 Farm Bill, those who follow the Farm Bill know that there's one biggest part of the Farm Bill budget, food stamps and nutrition title. The second biggest budgetary item in the Farm Bill is the federal crop insurance program. $7.4 billion in subsidies this past spring. No other program touches it. Unfortunately, the federal crop insurance program is the one program that's been exempted from conservation compliance requirements. Our goal of this Farm Bill is to pursue that very specific problem that producers can receive their largest form of subsidy and not have to abide by any soil protections or protect those wetlands. And that's just an evolution that we've reached. I don't believe it was intended or designed by policymakers, but the fix is there for us, fortunately, in the form of conservation compliance, so we can reattach that to crop insurance and bring those protections to all subsidies that producers receive. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Excuse me. I'm Scott Faber with the Environmental Working Group. Ironically, Ben and I both fly fished with Isaac Walton, so I think that's only fly fishermen would understand that joke. I think we all know that farmers can produce far more than food and fiber. They can also produce cleaner water. And this Farm Bill is really a referendum on our nation's commitment to share the cost of cleaner water with agriculture. Renewal of farm and food policy provides two critical opportunities to protect our drinking water supplies. One, to renew the conservation compact between farmers and taxpayers that provides farmers with a safety net in exchange for steps to reduce polluted runoff, what's called conservation compliance. And two, to strengthen the programs that share the cost of additional practices that keep our water clean. Now, unfortunately, today, 2 out of 3 farmers are turned away when they offer to contribute to cleaner water because of insufficient USDA funding. Let me close by simply saying we urge Congress to renew our conservation compact with farmers, what's called conservation compliance, and to strengthen the programs that help finance cleaner water. Thank you.
Great. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be joining this esteemed panel of agriculture, municipal and state and conservation communities who are all coming together to work on this Healthy Waters initiative. My name is Shauna Udvardi. I'm the Director of Flood Management Policy for American Rivers. American Rivers is the leading conservation organization standing up for healthy rivers and clean water. Healthy rivers are important to people. They provide clean drinking water, support local economies, and connect us to recreation, nature, and to each other. Polls show that clean drinking water is the top environmental concern for Americans across this nation. Beyond protecting clean water for swimming, for fishing, and drinking water, it's important for many businesses, from recreation to from the outdoor industry to the manufacturing sector, all of whom rely on clean access to water. As the nation celebrates its 40th anniversary of the Clean Water Act, it's more important than ever for Congress to ensure that agriculture producers are doing their fair share for clean water. So today we've heard a lot of different recommendations, many of which American River shares. I wanted to emphasize two from our perspective. First, Congress must ensure that we have strong Farm Bill conservation programs that exist to help agricultural producers to implement simple, cost-effective conservation practices. These practices include things like conservation easements for protecting wetlands and floodplains. They include things like soil erosion programs that can keep soil and water on the land, and technical assistance that can help farmers to ensure that they're complying with different conservation programs. So all of these practices combined, when tied to compliance, can really ensure and are proven to ensure that we can clean up our waterways. But they also come with other benefits, things like flood storage and wildlife habitat, all of which we care about. The second is we want to ensure that the Environmental Protection Agency set up a nutrient standard so we know when we're doing a good enough job and then we can know when we need to do a better job. So these two actions, we believe, will ensure a win-win-win, a win for clean water and rich topsoil, also a win for agricultural producers, and then finally a win for citizens across the nation that depend on clean water for multiple uses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank all the speakers who joined us today. More importantly, I want to invite all of the members of the Healthy Waters Coalition who are working with us to promote the need to address the nutrient issue in the context of the Farm Bill that's coming up this year. Sometimes we just take it for granted, but we have to remember that they only do the Farm Bill every 5 years. And this year, going into next year, is one of those years. So it's an opportunity that we need to take advantage of. We need to work together to ensure that we make additional progress in our quest to achieve the goals of the Clean Water Act. And with that, we'll open it up for questions. Yes.
Just recently, actually on Friday, USDA announced it was trying to get million more acres, and the chief of NRCS said that they're losing 6.5 million acres this year at the end of September because more farmers want to take advantage of higher crop prices. So how do you sort of balance that with what you all would like, and what are you all recommending that would get more farmers and all to think in terms of conservation and yet be able to grow those crops that they're saying they want to, and think about water quality?
That's a very, very good question. Would any of the panelists like to answer that?
Sure. Great question. So there's a balancing act here. The Conservation Reserve Program, which is the largest of all the conservation programs, but the only one that's focused on land retirement per se, is because of market forces beginning to decline in size. And the department's action on Friday was to say that certain wildlife and wetland practices would be the number of acres that could go towards those special practices could increase. Or in essence, the quotas for those particular practices went up as an attempt to try to persuade farmers that despite the market conditions suggesting that they might want to get out of the reserve when their contracts are up, there might be special practices they want to retain. We fully support that. It's a great idea. The bigger picture question there is how as the reserve on a kind of natural market-based evolution gets slightly smaller, how to make sure that there's sufficient acres left for the important conservation buffers that are vital to nutrient runoff and sediment. USDA from year to year, the numbers change, but roughly 300 to 500,000 on a given year, numbers of acres go into conservation buffers, and it is absolutely critical that when Congress rewrites the Farm Bill, they direct USDA to keep that amount of acres available for conservation buffers, even as some land will go out of the reserve back into production. We want to keep farmers with the buffers on the streams and on the creeks, and in the field, for that matter, with contour strips, to keep the water slowed down and keep the pollutants out of the river. So the Conservation Reserve, most of it has been more scaled to taking entire farms out of production. As we make some transition to some of those farms going back into production, we want to keep those conservation buffers there. It's critical, important, and I think the Secretary's initiative on Friday helps in that respect.
Thank you. Yes.
David Larosse from this IPA. What you're asking for more funding for targeted projects in CCPI. Do you have any particular figure in mind for that?
Pat, can you answer that?
We're actually not focused on funding per se. We're focused on making sure that the policies that by which these programs are administered are doing what they should be doing on behalf of achieving nutrient reduction. So we want to make sure that the funding, the conservation investments remain robust. But we recognize that there's a lot of pressures on the federal budget right now, and that in all likelihood, funding for a number of these programs will, as Alex said, probably remain static, may go up. But we want to make sure that the policies that that these programs are administered with are the right policies first, get the policies right, and then the funding will follow.
Other questions? Yes?
Sorry, I don't mean to
It's okay.
make the question too many. Are you all going to, and this is a question to all the members of the coalition who are here, are you all going to push for water quality trading? Would you like to see land?
Are we going to push for water quality trading?
Yeah, and then nutrient trading, are you going to push for language to be included in the Farm Bill or something to that effect to promote, to get more people to do nutrient trading?
I don't believe the policy recommendations deal with the issue of trading, but I know that our organization is very committed to working with our other partners around the country on clean water issues and hopefully developing a trading program that works for both the farmers and also for our members. As I indicated at the beginning of our session, our white paper indicates that the cost associated with dealing with this issue through our ratepayers around the country is extraordinarily high. And I believe that most, if not all, of our members would rather put those dollars into a trading system that would reduce their costs, help farmers, and eliminate a lot of the nutrient problem that we're dealing with and talking about. Alex?
Just maybe to add from the state regulator's perspective, we're very supportive of trading. I think trading still needs to be reach greater acceptance in the public eye, and particularly when you're dealing with point, non-point trades. This is where I was referring to accountability systems. The more accountable we can make those trades, the more demonstrable we can make those trades. I think the better. The Clean Water Act has the tools to do it. So it doesn't necessarily need to happen through the Farm Bill, but raising the level of public acceptance of trading is where we need to put some time and energy.
I'd also point out that there's several states, many states have trading programs today, but they're basically trading programs designed from government to government entities. For instance, maybe excess capacity in a wastewater treatment facility. We believe that the nutrient trading programs needed to be changed to include the private sector and the ability for risk mitigation, raising capital to invest in the systems. That's going to include interbasin trading, include EPA certifying those trades from state to state or from, as you mentioned, non-point to point sources. But there is a system that's fledgling, that's in place, it's working okay where it is, but we need to expand greatly the opportunity for trade credits if the private sector is going to get involved to raise the dollars to make installations that will actually remove the nutrients.
I would just add that a number of the speakers today referenced the fact that we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Clean Water Act today. And I think a couple of the speakers, mentioned that we've made a lot of progress despite the fact that the original act was not really targeted towards issues like the ones we're talking about today. There are those of us who believe very strongly that we need to fashion some changes to the law to ensure that it becomes the vehicle to address, that allows us to address problems for the future. And this is certainly one of those, not the only one. And we're not talking about rolling back requirements of the Clean Water Act. We're talking about ensuring that this very, very important and viable statute remains robust and allows us to deal with the issues that we have to deal with in the future. Ben?
Ben Grumbles. I would just say that while it's so important to think about the Clean Water Act and its 40th anniversary, the Safe Drinking Water Act depends upon tools that the Clean Water Act has in it. And so one of the most important things to ensure the continued success of the drinking water programs around the country is to focus upstream and on tools that are available both under the Clean Water Act and under USDA purview and other agencies, as Kevin Schaefer was saying, a whole holistic approach. And that's why it's really important for everyone to realize that the way to clean water is through stewardship as well as regulatory programs tailored at the level they need to be tailored, and that's where the Clean Water Act and Safe Drinking Water Act also come into play. And where trading innovative approaches that have great promise, you can't lose sight of those. You want to encourage them, but you also need to make the investments into the core programs that protect our watersheds for people's water quality downstream.
Any other questions? If not, I want to thank you all again for being here. By the way, this press conference has been videotaped, and if anybody wants to view it or get a copy of it, you can go to the NACWA website. Also, please eat some of the food on your way out. It's for you. Thanks again for being here. We look forward to working with you in the future.
I enjoyed your remarks. I worked with folks in your Department of Water Quality, Steve Goins. Yeah, I know him. Long time.